The COVID-19 pandemic has reminded us all how much the American healthcare system has failed us.
You will be able to keep your healthcare plan, period.
We are facing a gap between those who have and those who have not that is growing at a frightening pace.
My heart breaks for the millions of Americans who have been left behind.
The government has made sure the days where someone could affordably access health care are long gone.
At the FDA, only those companies with enough money and resources get approval, and once those companies do, they weaponize patents to keep out competitors.
All they do is squat on the patents of the old drugs that they have and jack up the prices of drugs that have been around longer than most of us have been alive, to the point where it's unaffordable. They jack it up 100 or 1,000 times because they know that the insurance and Medicaid and Medicare have to pay for it.
When we get the government out of healthcare and allow the costs to go down and the access to true affordable care to go up, it will be because of you.
We haven't had anything even close to a free and competition-based system in nearly a century.
If you get government out of healthcare, costs will go back down to the equilibrium. And we won't end up in a situation where the same government that decides whether we're essential or not decides whether or not we get healthcare.
Medicare is under threat like never before. You know that.
The current American healthcare system isn't working for anyone, other than the wealthy and the well-connected who always have access, or the billion-dollar insurance companies that bring in new record profits every year. It's time for real change. I'm Jo Jorgensen, and I approve this message.
And welcome to Campaign Update, Week 3. Campaign Update, Jo20 Jorgensen Cohen. An opportunity to connect with folks intimately involved in, I believe, an historical presidential campaign. Jo Jorgensen, Spike Cohen, President and Vice President for these United States. The purpose of this show is simple: to connect people to the campaign, to get a flavor for the needs, the demands, the philosophical challenges, the marketing, the voter outreach, the campaign financing, everything about Jo20. Joining us tonight is someone who's been very involved in this election year. Sam Robb joins us from Pennsylvania. He is effectively the campaign manager, campaign coordinator, if you will, for the state of Pennsylvania. Sam, welcome to Campaign Update.
Nice to see you, Pat. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Well, first of all, I want to reach out to you on a more personal level for a second here. I want to congratulate you for your effort earlier this year in the presidential election. While ultimately the campaign was not successful, I believe that you elevated the conversation. You carried yourself with great dignity, often during very challenging times, and you added to the equation. You helped the party grow. You spread the message. And I think that for that, all of us should be grateful for your efforts. And I hope that is just the beginning, really, of a campaign and a career, if you will, in electoral politics for the Libertarian Party, and or engagement, if you will, as you're doing now at the on the political operational side. And I have to say, for those folks, and I've seen it in the Libertarian Party before, for those folks who, and I think of Larry Sharp in 2016. For those folks who worked hard and competed hard and did their best and then lost, but ultimately then almost pivoting instantly in a matter of in a gracious manner that's sometimes hard during the difficult battles on the political fields of battle, if you will. That's hard to comprehend. There's a graciousness there that I think needs to be applauded. So I thank you for your continuing contributions to the movement.
That's I don't even know what to say there, Pat. I'm very, very humbled that you would even think of me that way. At least in this case, with as you mentioned, pivoting to helping another campaign. At least in this case, it was very easy. Joe's a wonderful, wonderful person. and I gained a lot of respect for her and the other candidates on the trail. So, you know, stepping up and saying, you know, fantastic, we've got somebody to rally behind was a wonderful thing.
Right, and again, politics are tough. They're rough and tumble, and there's more losers than there are winners. You know, it's just the nature of the beast. But as a movement, it's important. It's critically important that we not lose people or lose contact with people after they didn't win. Let's just say that, because in so many different ways, folks like you have helped us win. In ways that they very often aren't easily obvious, or are not calculable easily. But you know, again, it's so difficult to find people with this level of commitment and this kind of talent that we need to find ways to keep folks involved. And so when you step in right away and do that without feeling the need to be, you know, coddled. Words escape me for a second here, but I think you get the point. It's important that everyone understand that. So again, congratulations on a well-fought race, and you know, again, let's not make this the last one, regardless of the outcome. It's and I know the feeling too. I didn't win this year either. I ran for something. Oops. Well, hey, you know, I can say to myself, you know, Pat, you lost, and then I'm also going to say to myself the immortal words. And I'm talking deep philosophy here. I think it is, Pat, suck it up, Buttercup. So, but anyway, to the task at hand, because we try to keep this. I'm long-winded. Anyone who's listening to me knows that. I want to get like a 20 or 25-minute snapshot of the campaign. Sam, you know, I went to college in Eastern Pennsylvania, and I followed his politics. It's a remarkably diverse political scene, and I'm trying to be kind here. In one sense, we're talking about cities like Philadelphia, which still remains to be the only city in America whose mayor bombed it. You know, across, you know, to a variety of central Pennsylvania suburbs that are suffering in many cases mightily, both to the scourge of drugs and a variety of economic challenges. To on the western side of the state, you've got Pittsburgh, which, you know, pre-COVID is one of the great Renaissance Rust Belt cities, if you will, in terms of both its universities, schools like Carnegie Mellon, and also the diversity in manufacturing that it's been able to at least bring back at some level. And then you look at southern Pennsylvania. It's interesting. I've driven too many times out from Boston to Chicago. Just don't ask. And I've driven through a period of Pennsylvania called the Wild, which is a starkly beautiful part of the state, which is. So you've got this incredible mixture of politics. So how is the campaign going? And, you know, let's talk about what resources you need and what are the challenges in terms of issues in a state as massive and as diverse as Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow. That's an easy to answer question there, right? No, it's not. It is exactly that difficult. I was on a call with our regional coordinator just yesterday, and we're talking about some issues, and he stops and he says, "Do the Amish vote?" And that's a question. It's a serious question. Hey, can we reach some voter blocks that normally we wouldn't? And so we talked about that for a little bit. You've got the Amish, you've got the inner city, as you mentioned, in Philadelphia and in some sense Pittsburgh. You've got metropolitan areas, urban areas, farm areas, and in some cases, for example, Allegheny County, where I live, I work downtown in Pittsburgh. 30 minutes outside of the city, I live on a farm. So there's some very drastic changes in some very small areas, and you can't really depend on the fact that you run into someone down in Pittsburgh, they're going to be have a certain viewpoint or have a certain set of values. All of that is leads to some challenges. We're trying to deal with that, particularly in Pennsylvania, by being decentralized, trying to give our county coordinators. We've got I think 67 counties. We've got maybe a third of them that we've got county coordinators in. Giving them as much leeway as we can to let them drive things in their own areas. They know the people. They know the policies that are getting under people's skins. They know the concerns that people have. In one area, it might be small business and how it's being affected by COVID-19 regulations. Another area, it might really be the idea of qualified immunity and dealing with police overreach or police militarization. In other areas entirely, it's neither one of those, and people are much more concerned about about things like energy fracking in Western PA. It's what is Jo Jorgensen's attitude on energy. So it's really a wide mix. We've got to be on our toes, and we've got to be ready to pretty much answer any question that gets thrown at us.
And on top of that, you've got the pressing issue of big city finances. It's ironic that Harrisburg, your state capital, not Philadelphia, Harrisburg, your state capital, went through a range of bankruptcy filings, just a few short years ago. So the type of financial issues that you typically accord to a city like New York or Philadelphia or Los Angeles are front and center here in Pennsylvania in a number of places. Yeah,
and depending on how you play those cards, depending on how people react to them, that can be a wonderful thing, right? If you're talking to people and saying, hey, you think that managing a budget would be simple if you had an entire city's worth of employees to help you do it, and yet they still can't manage to do it. That's just a segue into talking about the failures of government at all levels. One of the things that I like to do when I was on the campaign trail, one of my talking points was to remind people, what's the last time you had any sort of interaction with the government? And looking back on it, are you now saying, man, I need to get me some more of that? And the answer is no. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're talking about the DMV. It doesn't matter if you're talking about dealing with traffic court. It doesn't matter if you're talking about filing your taxes, which a lot of us happen to, have to do recently because things got pushed back by COVID. And, whatever it is, honestly, I have yet to find anybody that says, yeah, I really, really enjoyed interacting with the government and I need more of that. If you can get them around to that idea, if you can get them around to the idea that the government they just don't do things well, that private enterprise does it a lot better and serves them a lot better, then you can start winning hearts and minds. And especially here in Pennsylvania, I think we've got a long history, especially out in Western Pennsylvania. We were the home of the Whiskey Rebellion. So very early on, we demonstrated that we were an unruly people. And I think that it's time for us to be unruly again.
How is the campaign set up in Pennsylvania? Do you have regional representation? Again, just Pennsylvania by Northeastern standards is a massive place. How physically have you broken out responsibilities?
Well, right now we are still dealing with, I've got myself, I've got my partner in crime, Christine. She is the campaign manager. I'm the campaign organizer. Very small differences there. We're both basically each other's backup. Fortunately, she's out in New York. I'm in Pittsburgh, so we can kind of divvy up the state that way for now. We're talking about getting some regional coordinators in, looking at not north, east, central, and west, kind of to mirror the way that the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania has their vice chair set up. And then at that point, we're going to develop down to the county level and have county coordinators that are responsible for overseeing events and activities in their counties.
You've just finished up a successful petition drive. Your folks are officially on the ballot now?
We are waiting. We have until Monday, I believe, for the Democrats or the Republicans to issue any challenges to them getting on the ballot. Them challenging Jo and Spike seems very unlikely. We have twice as many signatures as we need. A lot of our signatures came from, I think over 2/3 of our signatures came from volunteers. Those tend to have very high validity because we care, because we want to make sure that they're right. So the chances of them being able to knock Jo and Spike off the ballot because of signature challenges is relatively small. We're more worried about some of our other state candidates, some of our down ballot candidates facing those sorts of challenges. but we won't know for sure until Monday.
Is there a tradition of them taking on your ballot process?
Absolutely. They will do everything they can to try and knock our feet out from under us. If you look at the state of COVID-19 across the country, and this really kind of gripes my wagger, to use a phrase. There are tons of states where either there was a challenge from the Libertarian Party saying, hey, you want us to go out and collect physical signatures in the midst of a pandemic when you're telling us to social distance and to not gather and avoid contact with non-family members. And they took that to court, and the court said, yeah, this is ridiculous. You don't have to do that. There's a number of other states, including, I think, for example, New Jersey. And I love my friends in New Jersey, but it pains me to say that the New Jersey governor actually stepped up and said, don't even bother taking it to court. I'm just going to issue an executive order and make this easier on you, allow you to gather electronic signatures. We had to go to court and fight tooth and nail against our own government here in Pennsylvania, and against primarily lawyers in the Democratic Party, although the Republicans were part of that lawsuit as well, only to have a judge tell us in a virtual courtroom, because it was too dangerous to have people together in the courtroom for the actual hearing, to tell us in a virtual courtroom that you have to send your people out into the public in a situation where we consider that to be dangerous and deadly, so we've shut down government services. You still have to go out there and get those signatures. And as far as I know, we're the only state where that happened.
Well, I'll jump in there for a second. Your equivalent in Rhode Island, we have to get 1,000 signatures for a state that's barely got 1 million people. For people who haven't signed before, the ballot sheets have to be notarized, not the individual signatures, thank God, but the ballot sheets have to be notarized. In a state where virtually every traditional physical bricks and mortar setup for petitioning has been shut down to us. It's astonishing to watch. And we have to get 1,000 for a state that's probably smaller than Greater Philadelphia.
How much longer do you have to do that?
We have about 3 weeks, and we're going to get there.
Fantastic.
It's going to be a battle. It's going to be an absolute battle. But the kiddos have an acronym for them. I think it's NFG. Yeah, I'll let folks figure that out. And that's the attitude, if you will, of government towards us. The situation that they would never put themselves in, they ask us to do on a routine basis. And I've challenged the governor of the state of Rhode Island face to face on that. It's terrible. What issues, if you will, are resonating the most? Is there a single issue in terms of the presidential campaign that resonates the most in Pennsylvania at large? Is it possible that one state has one issue that screams like that?
I don't think so. In Pennsylvania, if you're going to talk about something that's uniting us all, it's hard to say. Discussed with the government, the state government at this point, I think is probably at an all-time high, but even that's not really as unifying as you would think. We're just too diverse. There's too many issues, as you mentioned. There are a couple of big ones. One of the ones that I keep hearing from volunteers, and I'd say about 3/4 of our volunteers are non-libertarians. They're independents, they're Democrats, they're Republicans, and the unifying theme from all of them, and the reason why they're supporting Jo and Spike, is I can't vote for either of the other two guys. I can't vote for Biden. I'm a Democrat, and I can't bring myself to vote for Biden. I'm a Republican, and I can't bring myself to vote for Trump. And I understand that completely. That's where I was earlier this year. That's why I ran. I couldn't bring myself to look at either of the major candidates and say that they were worth casting my vote for them. And I'm very, very happy to hear a lot of people in Pennsylvania, a lot of volunteers for Jo getting very excited, and people that we talk to getting very excited, because now instead of having someone that the media is telling them, oh, you need to vote against this guy or the other guy gets in, or you need to vote against that guy or the other guy gets in, we're telling them, hey, there's somebody out there that you can vote for. There's someone that you can look at and say, you know what, this makes me happy. You know, I'm not dealing with liver. I'm not dealing with onions. I've got a bowl of ice cream here. I'm going to vote for ice cream.
How has the media been in Pennsylvania? Again, a huge state. You got the Inquirer. You've got papers in Bethlehem and Allentown. You've got Scranton. You've got, again, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, Reading. I mean, it's how do you run a media campaign in a state where, wow, it's enormous.
Yeah, we do. We have a pretty huge media list. I've got a couple of press releases that I'm getting ready to roll out. A lot of that is, you hate to use a term like it, but spray and pray. Right? You send it out and you hope that it's well done and it attracts some attention. Another way that you can do it is bring your candidates into Pennsylvania for a weekend where they're visiting 20 counties between the two of them, and get some press that way. And we did that this past weekend. We had Jo and Spike here helping us petition. I would say, conservatively speaking, I would say we probably got anywhere between 1,200 and 1,500 signatures based on the two of their appearances in multiple locations. And I think that's being conservative. They generated a lot of buzz. We got a lot of attention. I've had multiple contacts from media in Western Pennsylvania. Christine, as I mentioned, who's out in Eastern PA, has gotten some press contacts as well. We've been following up with those. Many of the stories have been exceptionally positive. And I'm going to be honest, I expected more of a doom and gloom, or who do these people think they are, and they're going to cost my favorite candidate the election. Instead, what I'm seeing is reporting about, hey, she's got a very different viewpoint. Jo has a very different message, and people seem to like it. So hopefully we'll have some major appearances with some of the major news outlets. Jo's already appeared on Wendy Bell, who's a popular radio broadcaster here in Pennsylvania. So we had her on while she was here last weekend. I know Spike spent some time talking to the media while he was roaming out in the East. And our strategy is, hey, here's our message. Here's what it is. It's very different from what you're used to. It is not doom and gloom. It is full of hope. It is full of the idea that we can take charge as people and as voters, and we can vote our conscience and vote for someone that we appreciate. And let's run with that.
These commercials, and we just ran the new commercial on healthcare, are take your breath away.
Oh yeah,
They just absolutely, they're chilling, if you will. I mean, and I mean in the best sense. I mean, literally, I host political types on different shows, that I do here in the Rhode Island market. And yesterday, I had a young woman on who's an advocate for mass transportation, and I said, and her politics were left of center, but we're friends, and we focus on commonality of issues. We don't beat each other up. And there is a lot of commonality there. And I said, I just, after the show, I just want your reaction to the commercial we're opening up with. It's a political spot. There's no implication that you're supporting it. I just love your reaction to it. And that was the anti-war commercial. And she was amazed by it. I'm not sure if folks truly understand out in America, and with Jo and Spike leading with it, it's a huge point. I'm not sure if people truly understand how anti-war we are. I think
you're talking about libertarians or Americans as a whole?
No, I mean, I don't think Americans really understood, or if they'd even given thought to, how anti-war libertarians are. And the passion and the power in that commercial. Holy cow.
All of those commercials are really well done. And one of the things that really is attractive about them is that they're not talking about the other candidate. They're not talking about, Joe Biden said this or Trump said that. And that's, what you come to kind of expect from political ads. You turn it on, there's a very serious man talking about how you're doomed if you vote for the other guy. Right. And with Joe's commercials, what you see is, hey, this is a lousy situation that we're in. We're in it because of the government, and we need to fix it. And here's how we can fix it. It's been a series of great commercials. The anti-war commercial is fantastic. First one's free is absolute, sent chills up and down your spine. Fantastic commercial. But that, talking about being anti-war, one of the things that I find interesting, I'm a veteran. I served in the Navy. There's a number of, actually quite a few veterans that are supporting Joe, and active duty as well, active duty military. And one of the things that people don't think about is, when you're in the military, when you've been in the military, and that's your job, you signed up, you said, hey, I want to do what I think is responsible and help defend my country, help defend my fellow Americans, even if it's going to cost me my life. You sign up, you get into the military, and you think that's on your mind. This is what I have signed up to do. Do I really want to do it? And do I want to throw my life away on something stupid? And so you end up with a lot of military people who are, won't say anti-war as in, like we're completely opposed to war. They're willing to fight, but they want to fight to preserve lives. They want to fight to save their countrymen. They don't want to go fight a 21-year war in the Middle East that nobody has figured out exactly what we're doing there or why we're doing what we're doing, which is exactly what we found out just before COVID hit, that's exactly the situation over in Afghanistan. Nobody's really sure why we're there anymore. It's just kind of inertia carrying us along. It's time to end that. And I really admire Joe and Spike for stepping up and just being very blunt about it.
We've only got a couple minutes left. Where can you use support? I mean, obviously, we all need support everywhere. We're a Libertarian Party. We're the third largest political party. We suffer sometimes from a question of resources and issues like that. But where do you need the most support right now?
Oh wow! For Pennsylvania, honestly, I'm going to start off and say cash donations. And that's not just Pennsylvania, that's the campaign as a whole. Money's a force multiplier. It lets you do things that you otherwise couldn't do. And it opens up avenues that you otherwise wouldn't have open to you. For example, we're running some of these commercials on, I believe on television in Alaska. There's some that have been appearing on broadcast television services, over the internet. That's stuff that no matter how many volunteers you have, you can't make happen. You need some money to do that. So money's a big need. But I mentioned volunteers. That's the other big need. We are a grassroots movement. We are going to be out doing voter registration drives. We're going to be out doing events. We're going to be out trying to get people to understand that there is a candidate in this election that is worth voting for. And that's going to take a lot of manpower. If you think about it, just in simple terms, if you start off with 1,000 volunteers in Pennsylvania and every one of them goes out and gets somebody on their side and wins them over to voting for Joe every week up until the election, that's basically going to get us to the point where we were in 2016 with Gary Johnson. And we need to get past that. We need to exceed that. We need to get to, I'll be honest, I believe at least 10% of the vote in Pennsylvania and across the country this year. Obviously, we're pushing to win, but if we can't show that we are a viable alternative to the two individuals that are running for the fossil parties in this time and in this place, then I don't know how we can win against anybody else.
where can folks find you on the web, and how can folks reach out to you or to your volunteer coordinator in order to become part of the campaign?
Fantastic. Easiest way to do that is to go to jo20.com/volunteer. So just go to the Jo Jorgensen campaign website. They have a volunteer form. Go ahead and sign up there and tell them that you would like to volunteer. What happens then is, depending on what state you're in, either, if you're in Pennsylvania, it'll come to me. If you are in Florida, it'll go to another gentleman or another lady. But we will get you plugged into the organization somehow, somewhere. In Pennsylvania, what will happen is I'll get it. I'll notify once or twice a week. We get an update. I notify our county coordinators. They reach out and get a hold of people and start talking about what events we have coming up. And we'll get you plugged in. And that is the easiest way. If you're in Pennsylvania and you want to talk to me or to Christine directly, you can send us email at PA4Jorgensen. That's PA4 at gmail.com or PA@jo20.com. Both of those will come to us. And if in particular, if you have a skill or an ability or some capability that you would like to put at the campaign's disposal, email us, and we would be delighted to talk to you about what you can do to help Jo and help get her message out to Pennsylvania.
Excellent. Well, listen, thank you for joining me tonight. You've given us kind of a snapshot of what's going on in Pennsylvania. Please stay in touch. We're going to have, in the next few weeks, we'll add a little bit of time at the end of the show for folks who've already kind of been through to reach out if they've got pressing issues or events that they want folks to reach out and support, or events that they think they can share with other affiliates of the campaign to as ideas, good practices. We're going to be doing all of that. The point of this is to get folks like yourselves who are deeply involved, immersed, if you will, in the campaign, to get the word out to the local, and also to give heart to other volunteers across the nation that there's folks just like you in the trenches right now getting ready for what I believe will be an historical election in November of 2020. So, again, Sam Robb, he is I'll call it the coordinator, the campaign manager for the great state of Pennsylvania, for the Jo Jorgensen Spike Cohen campaign. Reach out to him through the campaign website and also through a variety of any one of the Pennsylvania Libertarian sites. I'll leave with this thought. Every one of us needs to take it personally. That's my personal hashtag, if you will. Take it personally. Every one of us needs to get involved. We had two powerful candidates on LPTV earlier this evening who preached to that. A young woman who is a prosecutor in New York State running for a judgeship. A gentleman who is running against, I believe, to be a racist Republican senator who's evoked support, if you will, or historical necessity for slavery. Huh? What? Yes. In the year 2020, examples like that abound. And it's taking advantage, if you will, of the presidential platform, if you will, that provides the Libertarian Party an opportunity in ways heretofore thought impossible to generate support for our message and to deliver a clear, philosophically based, not an interpretation, not a reworking, not a reimagining, not a softening, not an apologetic, but a blatantly pure pro-libertarian self-ownership end of the united state. We have that opportunity now. If we do not take advantage of it, we have no one to blame but ourselves. Sam, thanks for joining us tonight on our third edition, if you will, of Campaign Update, Jo20. I look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Thanks. Thanks for having me on, Pat.
And thank you, folks. Every Friday at 9-ish, 9:05-ish, after we get done with the LPTV production of Hour with the Candidates, we're going to be joining members of the Jo Jorgensen Spike Cohen Presidential Campaign to exchange ideas, provide moral support, and fire up the troops. Folks, it's the weekend where other people are out there having house parties and soaking up the sun. We know where we're going to be. Yeah, they don't know what they're missing. We're going to be out there this weekend in Rhode Island, and folks are going to be out in Pennsylvania, and folks are going to be around this country firing up the troops. We'll see you next Friday. Have a wonderful night.